Surviving Sister Wives contains adult content that may not be suitable for Latter-day Saints or sinners. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Sister Wives.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and we're back with Week 2, not to be confused with Chapter 1, which is what we'll be covering today, of Robin's #1 New York Times bestseller, Becoming Sister Wives.
This is part of the matrimony part of the book. This is going to be covering Meri and Kody's relationship, the soulmate, deep, affectionate love that we all have heard about for years on end at this point.
I'm really enjoying this so far. Just a light beach read for a summer book club.
That's really what it comes down to. Skimming through, but we're finding some nuggets here and there, occasionally, as part of the journey.
I was ready to rip this chapter apart because, #1, I knew a lot of what was going to be said. Kody has since changed his mind about in recent years. But also, the first time you read this book, I remember thinking this chapter was really pathetic.
Pathetic?
I feel bad saying that, but there's just no other appropriate word to describe Meri's portions of this chapter.
Thanks for noticing me. Which that is the general basis of Meri and Kody's relationship. That was how it all started.
In church. Don't leave that part out. We'll be sure
Kody's got his
dig
moves.
into that.
Yeah, that's the move. Meri forgot about her own lightning bolt moment.
Meri seems to have a lot of pride about being from California, despite having lived there for less than 5 years of her life.
Californian. She probably couldn't even name any of the highways.
Maybe Kody was really into that. He's got his California beach babe to go along with his California surfer dude hair. Did he have that hair yet?
He didn't have that
the
hair.
90s.
No.
Not yet.
It is the 90.
The 90s.
Like, they're not even there yet. Still the 80s for the most part.
We start off with hearing Meri's story of her upbringing, about how she lived in California. She was really little. Her parents weren't polygamists, at least not yet. And then one day out of the blue, Bonnie was like, hey, I think we should move to Utah.
I've heard about this polygamy thing. Sounds like it'd be a good fit.
No, she left that out.
Well, she didn't
just
make that the
pitched
reason.
Utah, which I have a lot of questions about.
How are you going to force your family to move to Utah under the guise of eventually we'll do polygamy, but we didn't bring that up? I guess that is a way to secure that, to make sure that your family has no other options. You're moving them into this area where polygamy is kind of the way that it is, and so this is what we're doing now. Got nowhere else to go, got nowhere else to be.
So Bonnie was really the neck that turned the head in that relationship, huh?
She's driving.
Not only does she get him to Utah, but she does eventually start the first plural marriage. Is that the best way to say that?
I don't know. They
she
find a wife.
Recommends a wife, which, becomes part of Meri's MO as an adult as well.
This is where Meri's recruitment story begins. At the age of 5.
Like mother, like daughter.
Wife number 2 joins, but not a long-term thing.
Not very successful.
No children, sticks around for about 2 years, and then dips.
Which is something I'd like for them to explore more. But now we don't have Bonnie here to tell us the stories anymore. And Meri was definitely too young. Although she does have fond memories. This is where it starts with the pathetic stuff, because she's mentioning she was really excited about plural marriage as a little kid because she was really shy. It was really hard to make friends. And these people are coming from big polygamous families with lots of family members. And she figured this was a good way for her to expand her friend group.
This is a good way to get to know a whole group of new people and to be able to make more friends. We've often made that joke, is that that's how Meri recruited friends into the family, was because she found somebody that she liked. She got Kody to marry them, and that way they could be friends.
They could be trapped in a friendship with her forever.
And that was
Through
kind
eternity.
of the basis here.
A lot of things lead back to that for her, because now we've progressed to employing people for friendship.
There's always a catch. Meri's not the catch, though, unfortunately. But she did have the calling, because growing up, she always knew that she would be living a polygamous lifestyle at some point, too, because she was raised in that tradition, basically. Plus, it seemed to be going so well for her parents because they always seemed happy for the most part, in her words.
Like every marriage has got its problems. Theirs had that too. But for the most part, kinda, the majority of the time, maybe less than the majority, but who's really happy after all? That was what that paragraph was giving.
Well, also, it was the emphasis again of I love being part of a large family, felt very normal and comfortable. The other reasoning that Kody mentioned in the prologue is the great benefit of polygamy is no one will ever feel lonely ever again. And I think that is probably why Meri was most drawn to polygamy. And then that ultimately ended up being her experience, was being the loneliest person in polygamy.
Is that going to be the name of her autobiography?
If she gets around to writing a book with the journal she's been teasing since Worthy Up days, I recommend that as the title.
The loneliest woman in polygamy.
The loneliest.
Kody's story, a little bit different. He didn't need the attention to come from the people around him because of polygamy.
He had other needs for that. Just attention-seeking behaviors that were taking place in general. That was just how he was. Hard to miss.
How long did his mom think about becoming a polygamist? Because he mentions when he's 14, his mom sat him down and explained the principle to him.
And then when he was 19, he went on his mission. And then it was while he was on his mission, his parents wrote him a letter and said, hey, we're no longer members of the LDS. We joined this polygamous group that is more fundamental by nature here.
Well, not only that, they're now excommunicated from the LDS church that he grew up in his entire life.
While he's on a mission
for.
He's on a mission for the LDS, and now they are excommunicated from the church. How does that work? How do you navigate that?
I don't know. I'd be like, am I supposed to still be here? Should I be getting a return flight? He only went to Texas. Isn't that a bummer? What strings did Lisa Barlow pull to get Jack to go to Columbia?
Well, we find out that didn't work out so great. He had some tummy issues down in Columbia.
Aches.
Yeah, so not so good.
Maybe it was a little too far from home. He should have gone to Texas as well.
Yeah. Texas is a foreign land in a lot of ways.
He's very much living as part of the LDS church, but he did mention in the intro of this section that when he first learned about plural marriage, he felt drawn to it. He knew somehow that that would be part of his future, but then he was just too stubborn and he fought back against it.
He knew, though. He just knew. He had a feeling about it. Gonna be living this someday. Don't know how, don't know when, but one of these days, it's gonna happen for me.
That just made me wonder if that's a rewriting of history, because you then learned about it, I guess weren't interested enough in moving away from the LDS church as you became an adult. You went on your mission, and then you changed your mind once you came home and saw what your parents were doing.
Yeah, because this was interesting too, was Kody's return from his mission. He was talking about how he was meeting his new mom, his mom's sister wife, and she deserved my respect and my love simply because my father had married her, was his assessment. So don't get to know this woman. Don't ask her anything. Don't learn anything about her. Just love and respect her because your father loves and respects her. Do not question this.
So interesting thinking about the fact that this book is being written right after Robin has joined the family, that this is where our head is at. We got to make sure we put that down in words here. Capture that sentiment. Also, Wynn didn't bother making sure that his kids felt comfortable with this woman who was now going to be their second mother. He just went ahead and married her.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He was just, he was doing him, you know?
I understand Kody was an adult, but still, that's a pretty big life change that you've now left your church, joined plural marriage, found another wife, and he's going to come home with all of this having happened while he was gone in Texas.
Well, and he's still talking about how he is uncertain about converting. So he's still trying to cling to the LDS faith that he was raised in, that he knew, that he understood, because this is basically like turning his back on all of his upbringing, his entire life so far, and the mission that he just spent the past 2 years doing.
That's a lot to think about, a lot to consider. But then he just started making friends who were from this new group of people that his parents were associating with. And
well, then he met this girl named Meri, and she changed everything. It's her fault, okay? She tricked me into this. Do you think he still blames Meri for this? Because that was the whole struggle of this chapter, was his distinction of if he wants to join this religious sect for a girl, or is it for his purposes? Like, what are the reasoning? He was trying to distinguish a lot of that. That seems to be the struggle. How much of this now do you think, in hindsight, is he blaming Meri for forcing his hand in this decision?
Wow. I'm surprised that he hasn't talked about that.
I think he has. He's blamed her for...
Well, what hasn't he blamed Meri for?
For everything, basically.
They met at church. That really, it's his fault. He was going to her church.
I thought it was symbolic, too, that after a brief hello, they did not say a word to each other, which was foreshadowing for the rest of their relationship.
A little different than the story with Robin, huh?
You had me at hello.
There was no lightning bolt that struck their loins at the same time.
Yeah, Meri didn't really draw attention to this, but she did first notice Kody at church. But there wasn't like this magical moment that she elaborated on here for us. Mary's just glad to be noticed by anyone.
She wasn't noticed. That's why she didn't have a big moment with him. She was pretty sure that it was just a casual meeting of two people who are probably not attracted to one another and will never speak ever again. Because that's the way her life's been going for her.
Turns out she goes to a summer camp for the gals in the group here.
Very Parent Trap.
She did not meet an identical twin that had been separated at birth.
Well, she met Kody's sister, Christy. Did we ever meet her on the show?
I think maybe at some point.
Well, I guess she and Meri aren't as good of friends as they were at this time.
But they're real close because Meri gets a peep of Christy's photographs and she's pointing out her brother, and Meri recognizes,
and
oh my God.
And she said, hold on.
Wait a minute.
I have the other half of this photograph.
Right down the middle? Right down the middle.
And then they shared Oreos and peanut butter.
Or something like that. That part wasn't in the book, but we can fill in the blanks on some things, I think. So what's great is she goes to visit her friend Christy, who is Kody's sister.
Meri strategically befriended Christy the rest of the summer to make sure that she would be able to get herself into another scenario where she had access to Kody.
A personal invite to Christy's house after summer camp now, so she can hang out.
We've all been 18-year-old girls.
She was 18 at this time?
18.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, how much older did you think she was? There's got to be a cutoff for summer camp. I don't think you can just keep going.
For church groups? I don't know. I think they still do them. Young adult things. We'll have to ask Aurora how many summer camps she's gone to. Quite a few.
They do have an eye meeting moment. Not the first time they met.
Well, imagine walking in the door and there's Kody sitting on the couch saying, hey, Meri, you're the Meri my sister's always talking about.
It was frightening.
That's probably what he sounded like, even more so.
It made her heart race.
Oh, gosh. She was shocked that he knew her name. It was like the end of Jingle All the Way. He knows my name.
Why did she take that to mean something a lot deeper than just my sister talks about you a lot?
You know what gets me is that Kody didn't connect the dots on, oh, you're Meri from church who I've met before this. No, he didn't make that connection. He said, oh, you're Meri who Christy's been talking about from camp. I don't know you. It's nice to meet you, Meri.
For the first time.
For the first time ever.
Nice to put a face to the name.
No recollection. So maybe that's a red flag. Maybe that's something to take note of here. He didn't really put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
I mean, how many Marys did you think there was? I'm starting it again. Not Meri.
Not Meri.
Meri.
Murray? Murray? I don't know who Murray met, though, because she's talking about Kody, this guy who had a good and positive outlook on life, and he was really outgoing and positive. I don't know this guy. They all say that,
though. He was really optimistic in the beginning.
Yeah, we don't know this guy. We didn't meet that Kody. Maybe at the beginning of this series, I guess there was some optimism.
I think he'd already been jaded a bit.
Once the Flea High move hit, I think he's pretty bummed.
The world's their oyster at this point. They're only 18 and 21 years old.
Luckily, Meri's father is an excellent judge of character, and he warmed to Kody immediately. No red flags. I trust this guy with my life. You can date my daughter.
You know that Meri's parents every night were praying that this man would take her away.
Their wallflower that they just couldn't get rid of.
They have to know the opportunities are few and far between.
If you're interested, the answer is yes. Are you interested, Kody? Okay, the answer is yes.
Okay, it gets sadder. She loves being around Kody because everybody wants to be around him, and that's a very different experience than the one that she's had for the majority of her life.
Because then by proxy, when people want to be around Kody and Meri's around Kody, people kind of want to be around her. There's not this weight or this heaviness where
when
you
she walks in a room,
the happiness out of a room.
They're also starting to remember who she is because much like Kody, they don't recall having met her despite the fact that she's been a member of this same church since she was 5 years old.
That was pretty amazing. Well, how are these dicks at church who have met you, seen you every week, and they don't remember you at all?
Can there be that many people? I guess so.
Not that there's
everybody's
that many.
Family has to be
Everybody
really big.
knows each other, though. There's people where you don't know everybody in the family or that you don't hang out with, but you know of them at least because everybody knows everybody in these types of community settings here. Every week for 10 years, 14 years, you're talking about?
We need to interview some of these people.
Thanks for noticing.
Was this just Meri's point of view? Did she think that nobody noticed her, but they did really know who she was?
Yeah, maybe it's a perception thing where she wasn't, seeing it as people recognizing her or connecting with her. She felt like a loneliness there, but now with Kody around, it's like being the center of attention, and she's getting her day in the sun here.
It's really sad because all I kept feeling reading her portions of this chapter was that she has really low self-esteem and low self-worth.
And now she is defining her self-worth through the attention that she gets from being around Kody Brown. So now you have this conduit where Meri's self-worth is attached to Kody Brown.
And that's kind of a big disappointment at first because he ends up telling her, look, Mer, we've been spending a lot of time together, but I can't really be dating girls right now.
I can't get involved in any relationships with girls right now. I like our friendship. Let's continue that.
Okay, I'm really excited to speculate about this because he talks more about it in his next section that starts on page 22. He had a really careless dating style, and he's trying to work on that.
Okay, Kody is a self-described
fuckboy. Oh, that's not what you were going to say?
Hopeless romantic who's too easily infatuated.
No. Why am I holding her hand? I don't really like her. That's fuckboy energy.
Well, yeah, and I think that was just maybe there's like people pleasing that's in that too, where he would have discarded this person long ago, but now there's a responsibility there where he's obligated to continue to live out this fantasy of him caring about this person.
I am wondering if he had some regrets about that experience that he had in college.
He didn't mention that, but he did talk about...
I know he doesn't mention it in here.
Not in the book. Yeah, not in the book. But he didn't mention that directly here. But yes, you can kind of read between the lines. He was talking about not kissing, slowing down things. He's been rushing into things, and he didn't want to rush anymore.
Doesn't sound like him.
Wants to take his time, but he's becoming too easily infatuated. Maybe it's because every single person you've been told your whole life that when you date somebody, you have to date to marry them. So then you have to kid yourself, lie to yourself, and tell yourself, oh, I love this person so much because that's what we're on the road to here.
If I have this feeling, it must mean that it's leading to that feeling.
Love and marriage. Yeah, like that's the whole basis here.
Really gross that what he describes about liking about Meri is that she had a remarkable purity about her.
I don't know what that means, though. Remarkable purity?
I guess that's something that she had a leg up on Robin, huh? Or not.
A leg down on. worthy up, leg down.
He's starting to think this is probably his soulmate, though. He's going to try to take things a little slower.
Meri was his experiment in friends. Let's not jump into anything. Let's try the friend thing.
This poor woman, her whole life, all she's wanted is female friends. And now the guy that she's into is like, let's put the brakes on this. Let's try to just be friends still.
Well, that was at the behest of Kody's mother. That was her advice to Kody. Maybe next time you find yourself getting infatuated, try to just be friends. Slow down.
Do you believe that?
That was who he's blaming for this.
Yeah. I can't. I had a friend growing up who would always claim that her mom said things to kind of be her reason why she was or wasn't going to do something. And then we would eventually find out that she never talked to her mom about that. Her mom never said that.
Yeah.
And
it's just an excuse.
Because you can't really fight. Well, my mom told me this advice.
Was it good advice?
I mean,
they became friends.
Mary's not going to fight with Janelle.
The friend zone becomes a big thing for Kody and Meri's relationship, even later on in the series here.
But are they really being friends? It just comes across as they're covertly courting one another.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, we're not overtly out there. We're trying to remove some of the pressure of courting by just getting to know each other first.
Because there are people who are asking them if they're dating because they're always together. And then the part that really got me, I often caught Meri making eyes at me.
Often.
It just gave me a good giggle from the beginning where she mentions that they locked eyes in church.
Lightning bolts. Still more lightning bolts. None of them that he remembers, though.
No, but then his side of the story kind of comes across as though like Meri just stares at him from across the room.
Maybe that's where he got the move from. Because he knew that Meri was interested because she kept locking eyes with him.
All of his moves to attract other women have come from Meri. I think that we've cracked something open here.
He was just trying to be friends, but he knew that Meri wanted to be more than friends based on the lightning bolt eye connections that they would have. If it makes you feel any better, Kody does go list a few more things of why he liked Meri so much. She was sweet and innocent and a wonderful listener. She validated my existence.
That seems a little dramatic, and maybe like he's stealing her story a bit, because I definitely think that Kody validated Meri's existence.
I smell codependency forming. There's something about it, because now they're becoming inseparable based on these reactions that they're having and the interactions other people are seeing.
Yeah, don't you think it's kind of toxic that they have everyone else coming to them and saying, hey, are you guys dating? You guys should be dating. If you're not, when are you going to get married?
We're just friends. Everybody saw them as more than friends, except for Kody and Meri. And that's basically what Robin's stance was towards the end of their relationship before the divorce, too. She kept telling them, no, you're more than friends. And they were like, no, we can assure you, we're just friends. Not even friends.
We've been friends before.
This ain't it.
This is not.
Yeah.
That's not what the friendship looked like.
Nope.
So what do you do when you're kind of, but also not dating a girl who maybe you should probably move forward with courting and dating or marrying at this point?
Eventually. But then you're feeling guilty too, because it's like you don't want to lead her on because you know she's interested, but I don't know if I'm interested and I don't want to make a mistake by settling for Meri.
Let's leave it up to God and fast.
Well, after we finish a nice big bowl of ice cream with a fork.
Was that weird?
That's a red flag.
A lot of people had opinions about that.
Well, it did make me think of Garrison eating the mayonnaise straight out of the jar, though. So that did come to mind.
Not with a fork, though.
Not with a fork.
He preferred a spoon for the mayonnaise.
Right, but it's always dairy with these folks.
The fast. Is this the proper way to fast? There was no water involved. No food, no water. That's why it only lasted 2 days. I'm not sure he connected the dots on that.
I don't think it should last longer than that, right? If you're not drinking any water?
I think he only had one more day to go. Can't you only go like 3 days without water?
They'd be parched. Yeah. But he's got some serious questions for God to answer. Should I join this church? And should I marry Meri? Or Murray? Should I Murray Meri?
Man, I miss Meri and Millions.
Meri and Millions. What are you going to do about it, Rodney?
He gets in the car because he knows he can't make it any more than the 48 hours that he's already done.
I'm terrified that he drove this long distance because he drove, was it from Wyoming to Utah? Hadn't eaten anything in 2 days, drove the whole way, and then he got there and he was so surprised. He's shocked how energetic, vivacious I feel.
That was the euphoria kicking in.
My glutes aren't sore at all.
His body's starting to shut down.
He is attributing this to a higher power, a greater power throughout his fast.
He's probably thinking he got there in record time. That must be his love for Meri drawing him to drive even faster to get to his destination in Utah. But really, it's because he was so dehydrated that he never had to stop to use the bathroom.
That's the secret answer. It's probably something that simple, but he's going to attribute it to the moment he gets to Meri's room, the guest bedroom, he was overcome with peace, tranquility, calm.
He probably smelled food wafting from the kitchen.
Well, that would stress me out then at that point. I'd be raring to go.
Why? Just because you got to go get yourself a plate.
Oh, I would be needing some food at that point. Yeah. But no, that's the answer. That's the yes from God. That's what this means. The euphoria you felt from not eating or drinking anything for 2 days and making record time on your drive, you happened to imprint on Meri when you got there. And so now, yes, that is the answer. So proceed with this religion, get baptized immediately.
For someone who said they're trying to work on the fact that they rush big decisions in their life, the 2-day fast just didn't feel like...
That was a lifetime.
Maybe enough time.
That was a lifetime for Kody's decision-making process. Long enough. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Also, if we're being honest, kind of sick of thinking about it, kind of over it. I'd like to just make a decision. So this seems to be aligning with everything else that's going on in my life. Everyone else that I'm involved with is now part of this community. I guess I'll join the community.
I don't know, maybe it was a quid pro quo because Meri's dad is involved in baptizing him into the church. And then he agrees, I'd like to court your daughter. So is it, thank you very much, and now I owe you something?
You scratch my back, I scratch your back. No, this is the danger zone for Kody because he's getting very close to moving too quickly and following those romantic impulses that he's so prone to.
A lot of things pulsating, perhaps.
I love how Kody keeps viewing himself and crediting himself as this hopeless romantic with all these impulses, with all these desires, with all this complicated stuff that he is addressing here in the book repeatedly. And then every time you hear Meri's side of any of his romantic gestures, it's always terribly awkward, wildly unrehearsed, not prepared, not ideal.
They use the word spontaneous a lot to describe him, and that's a little too generous. Because I think, like you said, it's impulsive and not well thought out or planned.
But Kody's ready to get some, so he's going to hold Meri's hand under his trench coat. He doesn't want anybody to see, but he wants to hold Meri's hand.
You think that her hand kept gravitating towards his zipper area?
Oh.
And he kept batting her hand away?
I don't think he's
How do we envision that happening?
Away.
You don't think so? I feel like there's always been this push and pull in their relationship.
Is Meri push or pull?
They're always at the opposite end.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just like that there's a level of shame that's ingrained in this too, of how he wanted to hold Meri's hand, but he doesn't want people to see that he wants to hold Meri's hand. He's trying to keep that under wraps. I don't want to shout it from the rooftops here.
They were already assuming that they were dating when they were just spending time in the same general vicinity.
Everyone was assuming that you were courting, and now you don't want to confirm that you are courting, even though you're courting?
But also at the same time, you're courting, but you're already thinking about marrying her? Because courtships aren't used to determine if this is the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. You've already confirmed that.
And now we're just buying time until wedding day. And what a beautiful time it was. In Meri's memory here, Kody and I had a wonderful courtship. What was it, a solid 4 months, I think, that they had? Something along those lines?
Yeah, it was 4 months.
4 or 5 months, somewhere around there.
Till D-Day, right? Till the wedding.
Well, the courtship goes public very quickly because it's impossible to hide the depth of our feelings for each other. The feelings, everyone knew they were in love, even though, very clearly by Kody's standards now, they were not in love and never have been in love.
Ever.
Even though they were soulmates and he was convinced that he was going to marry her, in his words.
We get a little bit of the classic Meri humor that he really hates.
Oh, yeah.
They're having dinner with Meri's family on Christmas Eve, and they're all nagging, like, when is this going to happen? Is this relationship going to turn into a marriage? What's going on here?
Well, they keep acting like a married couple, so everybody's just asking, when are you getting married?
She shoots him a non-lightning bolt look from across the table and says, well, he hasn't even asked me yet.
She admits that it's more to tease Kody, but maybe to light a little fire under his ass.
You know I don't like spearmint.
No, that felt like this isn't the only part. There's 2 of these Meri shots that happen on one page in this book. So that was the first one. Now on the in-between, they do have a conversation alone where, again, Meri's describing it as an awkward moment, not a romantic proposal that girls dream of, because Kody's just kind of mumbling and stumbling through, well, I figured I guess we should get married if you want to, if you're up for that.
She doesn't really count that one, though. He does have to repropose, doesn't he?
That's not a good one. But Meri needs to check now, too, because now it's up to her. He's asking, hey, is this something that you'd even be interested in? So she's got to take, a day, 12 to 18 hours for some real deep introspection here and check and validate her feelings with God the Almighty, first and foremost. Yeah, sure. Sounds like a plan. So then on Christmas Eve, that's when Kody officially asks, and he didn't even take the engagement ring out of the box. He's just handing it to her like a bouquet of flowers on Valentine's Day in a polygamous marriage.
That's something we've seen him continue to struggle with well into being together many, many, many years.
Well, that's when Meri goes, you're supposed to take the ring out and present it to me, not just hand it to me in the box. That felt like the, I don't like spearmint sort of response.
What did you think about them talking about getting the ring? Because we know he eventually melts that ring down.
I thought the irony of that story, too, was that they found a ring that they both really liked, but we just kept looking to make sure. That felt like a Meri decision, where I've reached a decision, I like this, but I'm going to keep looking. I'm not going to actually decide to go with that one. I'm going to just keep that lingering in the back of my mind.
He could have tacked another 4 to 5 months onto this courtship if he had just let her continue to be indecisive.
Well, that, and it also felt like a Kody, I picked the dress moment, because Meri did have one ring that she did like, and then he secretly made sure to acquire that ring for her.
I picked the ring.
I picked the ring, and I melted it down.
The other problem with the proposal, he kind of forgot the part where he needed to ask Meri's father permission to marry her.
Oh, right. Whoopsie doopsie.
I mean, did we think the answer was going to be no?
If the courtship was already yes, and then it's been 4 months, you have to know we're getting pretty close, right?
Also, why hassle him at dinner about it if that's not where everybody was hoping this was going to end up? But
Plus,
how crazy. It went from a couple of days before Christmas Eve that everyone was giving them a hard time about if they're going to get married to Christmas Eve, they're engaged. When he did not have that intention going into this weekend.
But Meri knew Kody was her soulmate. They're destined for each other. There was destiny. It was written in the stars. How do you say no to that? Kody agreed too. I loved Meri. I was certain of it, he says.
But I was worried, is what he follows that sentence with.
But for Kody to repeatedly state this is why Suki needs the book. You need to read these chapters or just pull up these segments and just say, hey, remember when he said that? That would have been very useful a couple tell-alls ago.
We're essentially making cliff notes by highlighting our books. We will send them to you. This is our sacrifice.
Something like that. This was where Kody had mentioned in one of his past infatuations. And that was when I highlighted that word. And I said, oh, I think I know which infatuation you're talking about. Now that you've mentioned it on national television in another tell-all here. He used to be able to do these physical acts of love to test the chemical reactions that were taking place, to get the hormones in the mouth.
The hormones in the mouths. But he's not doing that anymore. So he and Meri have held hands. They have not kissed.
He's making it abundantly clear he will not kiss her until they're engaged or until Christine is giving birth.
Whichever comes first.
Whichever comes first. I think that's in the fine print of that marital contract, yes.
They do end up kissing, right? They be kissing before.
They kissing now. Well, because they are officially engaged now, yes.
So now we can do that. And that's confirming all of these feelings of probably not love, but
Something's in there.
Obsession, infatuation, the desire to see. All of these feelings are swelling at the same time. They have a dance, a church dance.
Of course they do.
This sounds a little familiar. It was like they were the only two people there in the room together dancing with one another.
I thought that was interesting because, yeah, that sounds a lot like the Robin dance that Kody wins her over with, and that's when he knows that he fell in love with her. So I don't know if he's borrowing some of that Meri story and applying it to Robin now.
Cue it up.
Oh, it seems like it's something like that.
Found you.
Is that Flightless Bird again?
Bird.
Well, and the song I kept thinking of was their wedding song, Kody and Meri's. And I would give everything I own.
How do you remember that?
That's a song.
No, that really was their wedding song?
That was the song Kody sang to Meri on their wedding day in his white tux.
What a memory. Wow.
Yeah. And then he sang it again on the couch, recounting it later. Maybe that would be a good episode that we could watch for the watch party this week.
The Discord watch party?
Find the episode where Kody is singing to Meri on the couch, wildly out of key.
Hey, I can't say anything.
I'm going to say it.
They get married April 21st, 1990. And what a day it was, unencumbered by the feelings of other jealous women.
Yeah, a nice monogamous wedding to round out a very peaceful monogamous courtship that took place.
You know, we're coming off the heels of Robin's wedding as this book is getting written, and it sounds like maybe someone's a little butthurt about how that all went.
That's top of mind. Yeah, it seems to be the case here. Kody continues to gush about this friendship developing into a remarkable love affair. It's just all of these different descriptors for this love story of the ages, basically, that he is attributing to his relationship with Meri.
Now it has to be, though, because you're already committed. You got married. I think a lot of people do this to themselves, where they have to convince themselves that this relationship is the right one that they need to be in. And the first sign that you probably shouldn't have gotten married was Meri getting sick on the honeymoon.
It wasn't even on the honeymoon. It was the day after the wedding when they were supposed to leave for the honeymoon.
Her body was rejecting that brownie batter.
Is that what it was? It was an allergic reaction, you think?
Maybe that, or maybe she had a bad Chipotle burrito.
I was thinking it was some improperly refrigerated shellfish that may have been the culprit. Do you think they heard us? Oh, look at you. You are cute. You got that on the first try.
They do eventually go on the honeymoon 3 days late, but they don't really have real jobs, so what does that matter? It's unplanned. Spontaneous.
And unplanned.
How romantic.
A magical romantic experience together up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Visiting all the holes. It doesn't take them long of it just being the two of them, though, to start dreaming, fantasizing about a day where they have another wife.
Well, things are going great right now because we are unencumbered. We are carefree. We're able to just leave on a whim at the drop of a hat.
They have no responsibilities.
No responsibilities.
They don't owe anything to anyone else.
All of these things that leave us untethered to just enjoy each other's company and live freely and bask in the loving relationship that we have, this romantic, magical experience together. Let's go ahead and add some complications in. Let's go ahead and we've talked about plural marriage before we even agreed to get married. So it's only a matter of time. We don't know when it's going to happen. Or whom.
We probably know where.
It is like a lightning strike, though. So we're waiting for another lightning bolt moment. You don't know when it's going to happen, but it will at some point.
Final thoughts on this chapter?
enjoy it while you can, Meri. Because that's what she was trying to soak this all in. Enjoy the time we had together, learning, sharing, and falling more in love each day.
It's going to be fleeting. They didn't know each other well enough.
But they kind of did, though. Did they know each other? They had probably the longer courtship.
Probably the second longest, because Robin.
Well, Robin's, yeah, before
was the
Robin.
Longest.
Because that
not
was.
by her choice.
I was going to say that was kind of forced by the show and production schedule, though, because they would have gone shorter than that. And we know if Janelle had a longer courtship, she probably wouldn't have joined the family, by her own testimony here at the latest tell-all.
Just young, dumb, and full of cum. That is this chapter. Is that what we would put at the top of the cliff notes for Suki?
They didn't say that, but we can fill in the blanks. And if you're talking about second wife, you know, that leads to Janelle and Kody's timeless love story that is going to captivate us next week as part of the reading. So that'll be chapter 2, Janelle and Kody.
A romance for the ages.
Something like that.
If you're looking for more from us to bridge you until next week, good news. Jump over to the Sister Wives Professor podcast, because we were guests with Dr. Adam talking about Welcome to Plathville Season 2, the episode where Ethan mistakenly takes Olivia to a tantric sex therapist.
But it was like a tantric couples therapy session, kind of, sort of.
An outdoor COVID-safe activity that he did not know was going to get him outside of his comfort zone. And we all know how well Ethan does in those environments.
He was just hoping for some sexy homework, and he didn't know that he was going to have to do some other work, too.
Also, we've got another podcast called Surviving Reality. We just recapped Poop Cruise.
Poop Cruise. Poop Cruise. Poop Cruise.
The now infamous Netflix documentary that if you have not watched yet, you need to set aside some time, probably well after you've digested your last meal.
Yeah, you're going to shit yourself.
We're also going to be covering the upcoming Secret Lives of Mormon Wives Season 2 reunion.
I still don't know how you have a reunion when the season's not over, but I guess we're going to watch it and find out. A mid-season reunion. Mid? Kind of.
I hope it's not mid. And of course, we have hundreds of episodes over on our Patreon that you can check out. We have recaps of Sister Wives all the way from Season 1.
Every single episode.
Season 19.
Every single episode of Caesar's Wives? Caesar's Sisters. Caesar's Palace.
Caesar salad and fries and a Coke. Let's get that.
Chicken Caesar salad. That'll do it for me.
Not until after you've processed Poop Cruise. Thanks for listening. See you next time.